welcome to the Super Shaves video with me on a beautiful day. Hashtag Team All Blade and hashtag No Blade Left Behind. Come on in, throw me a Subi smile, and all I gotta say is squad goals. Thank you for being here, for clicking today's video, and for joining me. Hopefully wherever you're watching from, you're drinking something cold and sitting in a comfy chair ready for a shave. I know I could use one. I'm sitting on just over 72 hours of stubble, and we're gonna be using the Mars safety razor today. This is being produced, it was produced by DCS Cosmetics out of China. It's a stainless steel 3-piece head design that it looks very similar to the Alpha Claymore, in my opinion, or their DCS Cosmetics Legend razor, right? It's a single edge razor that uses half DE razors to operate and perform. And today we're going to talk about, the razor as itself, some of my thoughts and opinions on it, the tolerances, the performance, and overall, just how I feel about this razor in general compared to against other things on the market. It's a razor I have struggled with. I want to be very clear and upfront. I'm happy to do the conversation today, and I'm happy to have you here for it. But I want to be very clear. I'm going to be very honest, and I'm going to share my personal opinions and thoughts on this razor. I'm really excited to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to join me. We're going to also kind of be revisiting, kind of going back over 12 Shaves by HC&C. This was a collaboration with Head Shavers Ball, which is a Facebook group. I really love this. It's a homage, a tribute to. It's their version of Rojo perfumes. This is Danger, excuse me. Danger. I really like this. I listened to Roja Dove kind of talk about the fragrance itself, discuss his thoughts behind it. It's very complex. It's got like 18 different notes in it, and that's just what's listed. I mean, for me, it does come across as a lemon scent. You got lemon, you have bergamot, you have thyme that really play well together. The middle notes, you got violet, you have lily, you have jasmine. They're all kind of lifting the scent, keeping it from only being citrus. And then at the bottom, it's so complex. It's oak moss, it's green, it's effervescent. It's got this beautiful leather note to it, which is kind of interesting. It complements the scent, it rounds the scent, and it gives it more of a spicy tone, which I really like. The gallivanum in this helps lift everything and keep it fresh. I love the scent. I listening to Roja talk about his thoughts on fragrances was almost like it was a thing. Like it felt like an adventure with him, where he's talking about how you go into a fragrance, like to buy a fragrance alone, you do that separately. It should be something that really showcases who you are. It should balance you. He said, it can transport you. Scents are something that are like so important to us on the day-to-day basis, right? The olfactories of the scent. And I like this one a lot. It's really enjoyable. I think it's sophisticated, it's complex, and he's got all those different scents in there, and they're rounded. Can we just really appreciate someone that can take all those different notes, right, and make them harmonious? I love this scent a lot, if you can't tell. And this is actually a fragrance. This is a set that was sent to me by my good friend Mike, and I just want to give Michael a huge shout out and a massive thanks for his support on our channel, his dedication to being here, and his friendship, right? He's a person that reaches out to me constantly. He never misses a video, and I just want to give him a huge shout out and a massive thanks again. 12 Shaves, which is really based around this guy right here, right? Bruce Willis, and it was kind of done as like a way to spread awareness about dementia and some of the issues that he has gone through. It's been very hard to watch. I know that I personally just saw a post about him where he has lost his ability to be vocal, and I can only imagine how difficult that is. I see there was pictures of it, and I just wanted to give this guy a huge shout out, and I've loved his content that he's done over the many years, right? And I love that his family has really embraced him, the community has really embraced him. As a bald man myself, right, I can say that he helped shape the image that I now wear, and I'm really thankful for this guy right here, and I hope I don't turn into him today using the Mars razor, right? It may be very similar to this based on my previous shaves with that razor. The actual lather today, you can see, is nothing short to spectacular. This is, again, an HC&C base. Pete never fails to impress, and he always does a great job. Take a look at this stuff. It's rich, it's hydrated. It's a little bit pillowy. I really like the cushion on this soap. It really paints well. It produces a ton of slickness, but you also get like that ability to really dial in hydration. It's one of those ones, I will admit, I like to add a little extra water to it, and I just keep feeding it water. It's a soap that goes for days. You don't need a lot of it to really, really lather up and get an excellent shave. Oh, it smells so nice. That lemon, tarragon, it just balances itself. The bergamot, and that's really interesting. And it almost gets like a floral lift with the lily, the jasmine, the violet. It's all in there, and I really like that. Okay, let's do the shave. Let's talk shop here, and let's get in here and just kind of review the Mars DCS Cosmetics razor that's no longer offered. It was a $64 head cap and base plate design. It secures the actual safety razor blade with pins, and I want to call that out because it's very similar to the Katana, original the Katana style, where it actually operates off of securing the razor blade with these pins. You see this? A lot of people mentioned the earlier models, right, had some wacky tolerances. Mine did as well. You can see here the blade was actually secured kind of just with these like little pins, right? You see those little pins up front? That's really all that holds the blade in place with the Yachi Katana. This has some very deep pins. You have to almost sit the blade in it and then push the blade into place to get it to secure because of how deep those pins are. The problem is, I believe, and we saw this with the Parker, their new SoloEdge razor, right? Where if the blade, when you snap your blades in half, if they overhang into this mechanism right here, what can happen is the blade can shift, lift, and get kind of unlevel. And I have actually had some very brutal shaves. I've had 4 shaves with this razor where the first one I had was buttery smooth, right? It was super smooth, but I was covered in like cuts. And I started I was really confused because it was just no friction, no effort, absolutely efficient beyond efficient, and I was bleeding everywhere. I got in there, I started disassembling the razor, and I noticed as I unassembled the razor to the 98% turn, right? So 98% of the way assembled, this head cap could move ever slightly. I believe what's happened is the pins in the polishing process, because they've polished the underside of the razor where the pins and the base plate connect, they may have a slight tolerance problem, right? Where they're very, very small, they're not quite leveled together, and it allows the razor to move. So as you're assembling that razor, the blade has just a very minuscule amount of movement to it. And I want to call this out because shield razors, right? This is Mike's Shield Stomper. When you assemble this razor, I'm going to show this. I think it's really important. I'm going to unscrew this handle. Look at how much movement is in this head cap. You see, this thing doesn't move. It's rock solid, and this handle is not even remotely on there. This, if I barely unscrew it, this whole entire thing wobbles. It wobbles all over the place. And here's the other thing is that when you, I would say between 80% tightened all the way down and 100% is like one thread. There's not a whole lot of threads to how chunky this head is. I almost feel like they needed a longer, actual screw to really set that head, because there's not a lot to it that holds it in place. So you got some tolerance issues. And I think really what I want to call out here is when Yachi themselves, when Grace started producing razors like this one in stainless steel, right? The Tachi and the Suka, when they started producing these razors, I was very concerned. As a wet shaver, I thought maybe their tolerances in ZMAC would follow them to stainless and would end up more like this, where the threads didn't quite line up, the pins didn't quite line up, there was some looseness to the actual mechanism, and the blades, right, as close as they look as they are straight, may not be. And I will actually post a picture or a couple pictures. I don't want to take all your time with the video, and it's hard to tell in the video, but when you look at the actual blade here, that what really keyed me off to something being a problem was you could not see the where the cutting edge ended on one side, and it looked very much like this one on the left side, where you could see where the cutting edge starts and begins and ends, right? So I knew just it was that much. So from this side to that side, you just lost that little bit of the blade. So it was just very slight, very gradual. So then what I did is I started kind of pushing the blade. I tried to get a blade box in place, to push the blade into place. And in the end, I couldn't get the blade to go straight no matter what I did. So I kind of sat it down. I went to the manufacturer and I said, it's like, I don't know, like a 16th off or a 64th off. It's so off. And I went back to my Eco. I was looking for a stainless steel version of this. This is the Razor Rock Eco. And I thought this would be, you know, like the Claymore, like a really good, hefty, very nice angle. It was before the Yachi really was producing their like stainless steel Suka and Tashi combo. And I just thought to myself, this could be a really good kind of segue into stainless steel SE, DE type razors in three-piece style, especially three-piece style, kind of a timepiece, if that makes sense. So I got really excited. I went to them and said, I understand, I can see the merit to it, but can we update this? Is there ways to get in here and change this so it loads straight? They came back to me. They were very pushy. DCS Cosmetics let me know that they didn't have any problems. They believed the razor was straight. I showed them photos. They said they were more than happy to have me send that back to China. They would not warranty that, and they didn't warranty or want to warranty any of the issues I was having. So I want to be very clear. I did go to DCS Cosmetics. I did let them know I had problems with the razor, and they did tell me that they didn't really care and they didn't want to warranty any of it. So it's the third time I've bought from them where something has come didn't work from them straight from China, and where they told me, send it back, we're not warranting anything. So I kept the razor, and I'm kind of glad I did, because what I'm doing now, this is what I think is working. So like the Parker razor, right? I removed the tabs, but this one I removed the tabs completely. That actually allows the blade to move a little bit more, which is kind of like what I started thinking. I was like, well, if I'm unable to move the blade at all, it's just going to load really crooked because of the way the actual like tolerance differences are between the base plate and the head cap. But if I can move the blade a little bit, I can grab a blade box and I can put a little pressure on that corner as I'm really tightening it down and allow it to load straight. So I know there's been about 180 of these based on what AliExpress said that sold. And I wanted to just really quickly, right, showcase how I fixed mine. If you've tried this razor, the Mars DCS Cosmetics Single Edge Safety Razor, and it chews you up, but it has no blade fill, it may be a 64th or a 90/100th, a millionth tolerance difference off from one side to the other, which is causing a level blade exposure, and reason why it's not, it's really smooth, but very, 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 very nick prone and will chomp you up, right? So today what we've done is we've removed those tabs, which helps the blade set way more flush, right? So they don't have any overhang. And I did snap those blades and lay them on top of each other so you could see how much of a difference there is on a snap blade with overhang, right? So I'll get in here and start shaving, but I did change the actual blade when I snapped it. I cut the blade corners off, or the blade tabs off, and then what I did is I put some pressure on the blade on the very corner, the one that is usually unlevel, as I was assembling it. That seems to have pushed the blade at the furthest spot that it can be in and allow it to have a straight exposure. And I want to call this out because the first time I used it, right, brutal. Second time I was really confused, and I've used it 4 times. Every single time I've used it, it's been a wild experience. The first 2, brutal. Third experience, I got in there and I figured it out, right? I trimmed those blade corners off. It was after I got the Parker, the SoloEdge, and I said, well, I wonder what would happen if I trim those blade corners off, and then I pushed the blade tabs off, and then I push it back with the blade box. And that's when it went into place. It actually leveled and went straight. And then I had one of the best shaves I've ever had using this razor. It was so smooth. It was absolutely no nicks. And I got really, really long lasting performance out of it. The shave seemed to have lasted it was like 30 hours. It was a long shave. And I kept telling myself, well, that was weird. So then I was like, I've got to talk about this on the channel. I want to get everybody together. And I want to, if you're having problems with it, show how I got it to work one single time. But then I kind of said to myself, well, I've got 3 other really bad shaves, so I don't know how this is gonna lay out. So I was really, really worried, and that's why I kind of went with the Danger, right? Roha Danger scent, because I thought that really matched up with my experience with the DCS Mars cosmetic razor. Let me know in the comments below, will you? Please go below. Let me know if you have seen this razor. Did you want this razor? Do you own this razor, right? Or are you one of the 200 people that bought this razor? If you are, how do you like it? Tell me below. Is it one of those ones that you pick up often? Is it a razor that gives you a really close, very, very, very effective shave that leads with lots of blood? That's how mine was. It was very, very, very good. but extremely nick prone. And that's where usually when that's the case, and I want to call this out, if you're having that kind of shave where it's extremely smooth, there's no blade fill, but you're bleeding everywhere, it's probably an uneven exposure. That is like the first thing for me that I notice is that when a blade is cantered and it's ever slightly cantered, it will give me a very, very, very uncomfortable shave post-shave. During the shaving process, it'll feel very smooth, very, very deceptively good. And then after I add my splash, I'm like, whoa, what happened? And then I have bad irritation for like 48 hours. And that is how this razor kind of went with me. And again, like I said, I reached out to them, I showed them, we went back and forth, and now this razor is no longer available. That could actually be for a few things. I know that they're now offering, and I'm going to call this out, I don't want anybody to get angry at me, but I'm going to mention this. They are selling their kind of duplicate, their inspired by is what we're going to call it. Inspired by Legend razor that is an Artist Club safety razor SE that uses very similar specs, design, and concepts as the Alpha Claymore razor, right? Very similar, like eerily similar. And I wonder if almost like when Alpha saw that, like they reached out, and I wonder if they're going after him, or maybe it was, it could have been Razor Rock that said, hey, that's basically our design, right? It looks very similar to our design. You can't do that. I don't know, but they don't offer this anymore. And it could have also just been that they couldn't figure out how to get the razor to load up solid, right? And I believe that I'm not the only person that realized, hey, there's an uneven exposure here. And it could be, the blade brands, right? DE blades have so much variation between them. It could have been just that they couldn't get blades to operate and be usable across different brands in this design. Because I will call this out. Those blades, when you snap them and you put them into place, right? The way those triangular pins work, it's so tight. Like I have to really smash them in there. And I know brand to brand to brand, that's going to change and vary because the tolerances and specs vary. So I'm not sure why they stopped producing this, but I know they have stopped producing it. The scallops on it make it more aggressive shave on the skin. I would say that this is an in-between, very much an in-between on the Alpha Hawk. The Razor Rock Hawk. If you've used the Razor Rock Hawk, this is an in-between between their aggressive and their open comb. That is my opinion here. I would say it's more aggressive. This razor is more aggressive than the Hawk A-plate. Is how it feels on my head. When the blade is straight. Now, when the blade is not straight, it's zero blade fill at all. And that makes sense because that blade in the one spot, right, has very, very almost zero exposure. But when the blade is straight and everything seems to be lined up on this shave, right, my second good one of the entire time of owning this since last December, that's when I bought it, was not this December, last December is when I bought this one. I think this is probably the second best shave I've had with the razor, and it has more blade fill than it has like the entire time I've owned it, because that blade has an even linear exposure across it, which is a good thing, right? You're not seeing me flinch. And usually about halfway through that shave, I go, ooh, because I start getting those little micro nicks all over my head and face. And it's actually funny because the last time I used it, I actually didn't fully set that blade. I got a little lazy with it, and it bit me right across the face here. And I just barely healed up like enough where I could use that razor again and not like have fear, because it did bite me pretty good. And then I reloaded it. I went back in and said, okay, let's redo those tolerances. Let's relook at things. And after I did that, it was straight. And I want to call this out. If you're using a safety razor of any type, you should always verify, always double check. In my personal opinion here, that your blade is not cantered, that everything's straight, that it's tight, and that it's secured. I'm going to call my buddy Lee out here. Even us advanced, more experienced shavers have it happen, right? Where we just get a little lazy, or we get a little too confident in that what we're using is going to work and give us a good shave, and it ends up biting us in the butt, right? And that's what happened the last time I used this. I was like, I haven't figured out it's straight, and then I didn't load it straight. So it's straight now. You can see the shave was extremely efficient, very close, very fast, very easy. And honestly, on the face, I had the same thing. Look at my neck. You see how my neck has no redness, no blotchiness? And that's after we did the face shave and the head shave. So I've been sitting here for like 20, 30 minutes almost, right? And I don't have any problems. That's a huge sign that the razor is functional. It just needs a little bit of tweaking in order to be fully, like, I would say, perfect. And that makes me a little sad because the razor was sold as should work, right? And I think the concept was good. I just think they should have done a little bit more work on the polishing portion and making sure that it's fully understood that when you're using double-edged safety razors, that it can extend past the 1 point. Pre-cut blades will be a huge lifesaver with these because they're going to be consistent, right? They'll always be the same. I advocate if you're using something like this, pre-cut blades are going to take out a huge part of the headache. No scissors, no problems, and it will load up every single time. You will still have to deal with the problem that this razor is going to load slightly out of tolerance. So you're going to have to watch it and make sure that you don't have that blade on one side that has a different look than this side. I can't stress that enough. Awesome shave again from the DCS Cosmetics Mars razor for the second time ever. I'm so glad I was able to do it with you here. It was a really, really good, very comfortable, beautiful smelling shave. I love the lemon, the tarragon, everything about this, the bergamot. I think that the leather in this and the oak moss are such an interesting complementary scent to the lighter tone of the lemon. I really like this. Huge shout out again to Pete and to Mike. I can see why you really liked it. It's seductive, very sophisticated. Again, based on 12 Monkeys and Bruce Willis. Thank you again for being here. If you haven't, please go below. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the video and if you've used this razor. And until I see you guys down there, I'm going to get out and enjoy a perfect shave, and I'll see you in our next one. Suit out.